Good afternoon. Thanks to everyone for turning out this afternoon to greet the governor and hear of the great new plans for Illinois. But my honor this afternoon is to introduce my colleague who represents the other half of Bloomington that I do not represent, Dan Brady. Please welcome Dan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Keith, and it's my pleasure to be here as well. I'm glad you think it's still an honor to introduce me, Keith, so thank you. I appreciate that. It's nice of all of you to be here this afternoon, and we obviously have a special guest that's been with us here as we've been around Bloomington Normal a little bit this morning, and it's indeed my pleasure to introduce our governor of the state of Illinois. And let me just say this before we bring the governor on. You know, whatever your background is, whether it's business, whether it's labor, whether it's education, whether it's public safety, whatever it is, we are working diligently in Springfield, despite what some people may think. And there's a gentleman that's working to compromise and work on both sides of the aisle to bring us to a settlement and away from a budget impasse and move Illinois forward. He just talked to a number of students out at Midcalf Grade School, and he talked to them about their issues, have questions that they had, and they had a question that said, well, Governor, how do you get people who don't think the way you think to move and find some common ground? And he answered that question by continuing to work with, offer solutions, talk to the people who represented you, or who elected you across the state of Illinois, and be a governor for all the people to the best of your ability. So the kids at Midcalf got it. We've got a lot of folks around the state we've got to continue to work on, and we pledge to do that for you. So please welcome our governor, the governor of the state of Illinois, Governor Bruce Rauner. Governor, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. You are very kind. You're very kind. Thank you. I want this to be fun and informative and informal, so I'm going to mostly do Q&A. Let's go deep on the issues that you guys care about. It's great to be back in Bloomington. I've been here a lot the last couple of years. I'll be here a lot in the next 3 years as governor. I'm working for you. I'm here because I want you to know I'm working for you. I'm here to give you an update on what's going on, because you're hearing a lot of chatter in the press, and it's at least 50% of it's kind of baloney. So I want to tell you what's really going on, because the spin out there isn't exactly accurate. We're at a key turning point in Illinois' history. We are battling for the future of our great state, and there's a lot on the line. And let's be clear, only raising taxes, just putting in a massive tax hike to cover up the overspending and the debt and the deficits that have been going on for years, only doing that would be a massive mistake. We would just continue the long, slow decline we've been on. We have been spending more money than we take in for decades. This is not a recent thing. This is a long-term thing. And we've got to change the culture in Springfield, the structure of our government, so we can have truly balanced budgets and, most importantly, grow our economy. Because we can't tax our way out of our problems. We can't cut our way out of our problems. We need to grow. We have to grow. Growth creates good careers, rising incomes. Growth is the key to our challenges. And I don't know if you know this. This is one of the most distressing facts I've learned. Today in Illinois, we have fewer jobs than we had in Illinois in 1999. Can you comprehend that? We have fewer jobs today in Illinois than we had in 1999. As long as that trend continues, we're not going to fix anything else. That's a simple fact. And here's why the math doesn't work. Since 1999, since the late 90s, Medicaid spending in Illinois has gone from $5 billion, a little over $5 billion, to over $17 billion a year, while jobs have gone down. Since the late 90s, we used to put into our pensions about $850 million a year. Now we're putting in $7.6 billion per year in our pensions. The math doesn't work. We got to understand this. We can't, and to only raise taxes and think that's going to solve that problem. Right now, businesses have said to me, Governor, we stayed here in Illinois because you decided to run. We were excited when you won. We love your turnaround agenda. If you get it passed, we're staying and we'll grow. If you don't get it done, there's so many other states that we have confidence in that are pro-growth, pro-investment. And since I became governor, I've been traveling around the United States on my nickel trying to recruit companies to come here to employ the great people of the state of Illinois. And a lot of companies have said, we'd love to come to Illinois. You got hardworking people, you got a great location, awesome infrastructure, incredible agriculture. We'd love to be in Illinois. Capital, the heart of the center of the United States in the Chicago metro area, we'd love to be in Illinois. But if you don't show that the government is actually working for the people in Illinois, rather than the insiders in government, we're not coming. A lot of them I'm trying to pull from California and New Jersey and Connecticut and New York, other failed states that have massive debt and deficits. And those businesses want to leave, but they say, Governor, we'd love to come to Illinois, but we're not going to move from one failed state to another. We got to go where we got confidence in the future. And right now they're moving to Texas, they're moving to Tennessee, they're moving to Indiana. But you know what? They want to come here. They'd rather come here. We give us a level playing field and we will kick tails relative to other states around. We got better people, we got a better location. But we got to get the regulations and the taxes so we're competitive and we're attractive. We got to be competitive or we're not going to solve the problem. So we're locked in a big budget stalemate because the guys just want to force me. This is years and years of overspending, and they just say, Governor, yeah, we passed a budget with a $5 billion deficit, but you raised the taxes for it. Come on. Seriously? I mean, let's be realistic here. I didn't create this mess. I'm going to fix it, and I'll talk to you about revenue, but we need structural reform to stop this from going on and chasing our tails down. Let's get structural reform. Now, and so far they've said no. We've proposed 6 pieces of legislation. They refused to vote on any one of them, not a single one. So we're at a stalemate. And I'm sorry for this. People are being hurt by this stalemate. It's very, very upsetting. I hate it. But you know what? We have got to make change, and change is hard. Change is slow, but we're going to get it done. Now, in the meantime, we're doing everything we can to shrink the wasteful spending and shrink the bureaucracy. In every department I go into, I see opportunities for saving 10, 20, 50. We just saved $70 million in Department of Health and Family Service through changing operations. In one department, in the lottery, we saved $22 million by bringing out that manager and bringing in a new manager, $22 million. In one department I went into, there's 200 people moving paper across their desk. And I said, you know, I heard they invented computers a couple years ago. We could actually maybe digitize this. And it turns out the math, $500,000 in a computer system, we can save about $7 million a year. There's opportunities, and in most of these departments I go in and a lot of times I get a standing ovation, and people stand up and say, I've worked for state government for 27 years. I've never seen a governor. Governors never come talk to us. I said, you're kidding me. I work for you. My job is to help you do your job better. They never see nobody's been in charge. There's been no leadership and no sense of driving for value for taxpayers. And the Thompson Center, that's another thing we proposed. I don't know how many of you have been in the Thompson Center up in Chicago. We can all debate what it looks like. I won't get into that. That's a personal taste. But that's mostly empty air that you are paying a lot of money to heat and cool every day. And I could pay somebody to take over that building, and we would save taxpayers money. And we got 2,000 people there who we could move into offices we already got in Springfield and that we already got in Chicago and save a ton of money. The math is over the next few years, if we sold off the Thompson Center, we'd save you as taxpayers about $300 million. That's not immaterial. And to me, it's just plain common sense. We need to drive value for taxpayers. So far, they've said no. Legislature has just refused to talk about anything. They just said, we want to spend all the money we're spending, 38 billion in spending, and Governor, you raise the taxes to fix it. No. Come on. How about pension reform? Let's do pension reform. I've said, and we've put a pension bill out there that even the Democrats, the leaders, President Clinton agrees is constitutional. They won't vote on it. That would save you $2 billion per year if we would put in that pension bill. They won't vote on it. Come on. Be reasonable. And then they've said, well, Governor, you're too extreme. You're asking for too much. It's too radical. It's too, really? They say, and your agenda it goes against the core values of the Democratic Party. Okay, so let's take a deep breath and let's start about the truth here. Democrats in this state and around the country support term limits. Democrats overwhelmingly support term limits. Republicans support term limits. I've said, let's put term limits on elected officials so we get folks who are there for the right reasons, make some common sense decisions and leave and go into a different office. Not a hard vote. Democrats support it, Republicans support it. How about if we get redistricting reform? How about if we have competitive general elections instead of these districts that are gerrymandered to lock in incumbents, and we have actual choices in our elections rather than people running unopposed because it's been manipulated? Democrats support that. Republicans support that. They won't vote for it. It doesn't violate any core principle of the Democratic Party or Democrats in this state. It's common sense, good government reform. They won't vote for it. Why not? Pension reform, supported by both sides. They won't vote for it. And then they've said, well, and you want to take away collective bargaining. Let me talk about collective bargaining for a second. You guys got to understand what's going on, because this is baloney what they're saying. Okay, first of all, the states around us have gone right to work, and we're bleeding our manufacturing base at a rapid pace. We are getting devastated in our manufacturing base. I've said, look, it would be good if we had local control of that issue, but I've taken it off the table. I am not advocating in any regard right to work. Nowhere in our agenda today is there right to work. It's off the table as a compromise, even though we're going to continue to bleed manufacturing jobs because our other states around us have gone right to work. I've taken it off the table. I've also taken off the table another huge conflict of interest, and that is today in Illinois, our trial lawyers are allowed to give pretty much unlimited campaign cash to elect judges that they argue their cases in front of. It's outrageous. And I've said, okay, you like your trial lawyers, I will take that off the table. I won't insist on blocking that conflict of interest. In the spirit of compromise, I've taken that off the table. I've taken dozens of things off the table. But what I've said on collective bargaining, and this is the critical issue, I've said I don't want to eliminate collective bargaining in government like they've done in Indiana, like they've done in Wisconsin, like they've done that in Michigan. I'm not advocating that, but I am advocating let local governments decide for themselves what gets collectively bargained. Most governments are going to collectively bargain everything. Fine. But some will say, I want to take this out of collective bargaining, or I want to take that out of collective bargaining. They ought to be able to, because it's your government. Bloomington's your city. It doesn't belong to Springfield. Chicago shouldn't tell you how you run Bloomington, or how you run Normal, or how Quincy's run, or how Marion's run. You should decide for yourselves. And let's be clear, Chicago has taken things out of collective bargaining in Chicago for years. The legislature lets Chicago do stuff they don't let you do in Bloomington. They don't let you do in Rockford. They don't let you do in Moline. They'll let Chicago do it. Chicago has taken the length of school day out of collective bargaining, length of school year out of collective bargaining, contracting for outside janitor services out of bargaining. And right now, the city of Chicago is asking the legislature, they're saying, take out of collective bargaining the teacher's pension contribution because we want to decide what the teachers should chip into their pensions. And we can't negotiate it, they'll strike and we'll lose, so take it out of bargaining for us. I say, well, we'll talk about it, but why does Chicago get a special deal on that, but other communities that may need something like collective bargaining, you can't decide it? Chicago gets a special deal, you don't. That's wrong, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to collectively bargain everything, terrific. But if you need to take something out of bargaining, you should be able to because it's your community. It's not complicated, and Democrats and Republicans both believe in local control. I'm asking for local control of that issue. That's all. It's not complicated. It's not hard. It doesn't violate anybody's core principles. And Democrats in Illinois have taken things out of collective bargaining in government. In Massachusetts, the legislature there, Democratic governor, Democratic legislature took all of health care out of collective bargaining for the state level. Saved $700 million a year for the taxpayers of Massachusetts. Done by Democrats. Other states have done this. And you may not know this. In the federal government, a Democratic president and a Democratic Congress took most things out of collective bargaining for federal employees and put in civil service. This was done in 1978. Democratic president, Democratic Congress. Only a few things are allowed to be collectively bargained for the federal government. Most is not. That's no violation of some Democratic Party core principle. Democrats in the federal level did it. So don't tell me it's some radical idea, some extreme idea. It's not. It's common sense, good government, bipartisan reform needed to bring costs in line and keep things reasonable. That's all I'm asking for the state of Illinois. The other two things I'm asking for Illinois is the regulations for our businesses. We are punishing on workers' comp costs and in our tort system, our liability system. Our lawsuit abuse, we're one of the worst states in America for lawsuit abuse, excessive judgments, and we're one of the worst states for workers' comp costs. I want workers who are injured on the job to be protected and taken care of, But the injury should be work-related. It should be caused by work, not just some other injury. This workers' comp was not created as a healthcare system to be a substitute for insurance, just generally speaking. That's not what it was designed to be. We in Illinois have decided, wow, that's a good lucrative benefit. Let's just let anybody, if you got a job, you can claim it, and you get injured, you can claim it under workers' comp, even though if your job didn't cause your injury. That has caused our cost to go through the roof and caused our employers, especially our manufacturing base, to leave the state. Let's protect workers injured on the job. Let's have folks who have injuries not work-related get that covered by insurance, regular insurance, not workers' comp costs. That's the right thing to do. It's called causation. This is the big issue. Make sure it's job-caused, not just some other unrelated injury. That will make our costs more average rather than the highest in America, and employers can be here. Caterpillar told me workers' comp costs 5 times as much for them in Illinois as it does in the other states where they build their equipment. They've been growing their jobs for Caterpillar out of Illinois for years because of that. That is a massive problem, and we got to fix it, and that's what we're asking to do. And all these things are budget related. They all contribute to our deficit because it doesn't allow us to grow our economy. And to fix our deficit long term, we've got to grow. That's what this is all about. So we've said to them, please vote for term limits. They've refused. Please vote for redistricting reform. They've refused. Please give local control on local government costs. They've refused. Let's get workers' comp reform. They've refused. They just say, Governor, just raise taxes. That's all we want to do. Just don't talk about anything else. And they say, stop talking about things that are unrelated to the budget. Those things are not related to the budget. And I say, well, yeah, they are. But then I remind them, guys, you've taken 500 votes on legislation this year. Think about that, 500 votes. 40 of those were directly related to the budget. They've done 400 and some votes not directly related to the budget. So when they say to me, Governor, don't talk about term limits, it's not tied to the budget, they're voting for stuff all the time. Now, I love pumpkin pie and I love sweet corn, and I'm glad that there are state foods. But you know what? We've got a pension crisis and an economic crisis, and we're passing bills on other stuff. Come on, let's set a priority, let's focus, let's work for the people of this state again and restore our economic vitality. That's what I'm saying. Now the battle's going on, we're making progress. Some folks have said, well, Governor, you got to call a 4 leaders meeting, you got to communicate. There's a lot of baloney in the media. We're talking all the time. I've met with the speaker every one of the last 3-4 weeks, and I'm meeting again with them tomorrow and the next day. There's conversations going on, and a bunch of people said, we'll have 4 leader meetings. Don't just meet one-on-one. I'm meeting one-on-one because the leaders have asked for that. And what I found, I used to do 4 leader meetings in May and June. I found the dynamic among the 4 is not real constructive, let me put it that way. And even within, on their side, between, it's, I found much better progress when we negotiate one-on-one. But somebody said, well, let's have a big group and let's get all 4 of you, 4 of the leaders and you in a room and turn the TV cameras on. That'll, of course, oh, great. Talk about posturing. Now everybody's going to posture. How many people, what human being likes to negotiate in front of a TV camera and make a compromise in front of TV? People don't do that. But we'll meet on November 4th, 18th, and put it on television and whatever. I don't think it's going to matter much. The reason I think we're going to get a deal done soon, it should have been done in May, it's driving me nuts, is because Chicago's out of money and they need state help. Chicago makes Illinois look well run, and that's pretty scary. They're out of money, and they need the state to help. And I've said I'll do some things to help. I'm not doing a big bailout, but I'll do some things to help you. But you need to help us. This is a two-way partnership. This is not the state of Chicago. This is the state of Illinois. I work for everybody in this state, not only people in Chicago. So don't ever forget that. They get a little cranky when I say that, but that's the fact. And I'll help Chicago restructure, but I need Chicago and the legislators who come from Chicago, and that's one of our challenges. Everybody who runs the state and the legislature is from Chicago. We need a state that works for the whole state, and that's a big part of what I'm pushing. But I've said I'll help, but you need to help us. It's a two-way partnership. And Chicago runs out of money for its pensions in December and for its schools at Thanksgiving. So that timing is coming up. And at January 1st, votes in the legislature need to be only a simple majority in order to have immediate impact. They don't need a supermajority anymore like they do right now. So we can get fewer people on tough votes and still get them to pass. That's the reason my guess, and this is only a guess, is we're going to get something done somewhere in early mid-January. That's my guess. I don't know. We should have done it already. And here, I say to all the guys, can't we get this done now? We know what we need to do. It's bipartisan. Let's get it done. The reason I think that they haven't done so far, they like the pressure. They want the pressure. They did the same thing to us. They did the same thing to you in the spring. When I first became governor in January, we had a $1.6 billion deficit. And I said, guys, you passed a phony budget. We're going to run out of money in April. And they were kind of like, well, you know, fix it. And I said, well, I'll fix it, but I don't want to raise taxes or do more borrowing. I want to reprioritize our spending. We'll fix it. We agreed on the outline of that last January within a couple of weeks. They wouldn't vote on that fix for 9 weeks. They wanted child care pressured and people yelling about it. They wanted court reporters in Illinois to say the courts are going to shut down. They wanted that for political pressure. I think it's outrageous. I come from business. We don't do that. Either you see a problem, you find a solution, you negotiate, and you do it. Well, it's the political machinations in the game. They played that game in the spring. They're playing it right now. Makes me furious because I'm personally one of the biggest donors to child care in Illinois. I believe in high quality early childhood education and child care. I funded it personally for years. Right now, that's hurt. Our university system is being hurt. Our community colleges are being hurt. I am so frosted, I can't tell you. But you know what? That's the frustration of it. And our scholarships for our low-income kids. They deserve to have scholarships. They don't have them right now. It's wrong. It's political gamesmanship. But what we're not going to do is just put in a massive tax hike and then chase our tail down economic decline. We're not going to do it. We're going to do the right thing. We're making the decisions for the next generation, not the next election. My job as governor isn't only to do a balanced budget. That's part of it. But my job is to protect and enhance the quality of life for all the people in Illinois. All the people, not just special interest groups. And I do that by upholding our state constitution and by doing a balanced budget. But my job is to think about the next generation, not the next election. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to make the decisions for the long term. The right answer for the future, economic growth, education excellence, value for taxpayers. And getting some of this corruption and cronyism out of the system, and boy, is it in there. Oh, my goodness. So we're going to deliver that result. Thank you for your time. Now let's do questions. Q&A. Who's got any questions? Reporters, I think we're doing after, right? Where? Oh, yes, sir.
First, I want to thank you for sending Director Blankenhorn around the summer
Yeah.
to talk to us about transportation. I hope you got some good information to you.
Uh-huh.
I serve as a chairman of the Transportation Committee of the McLean County Board,
Yep.
and we're currently doing our budget right now.
Mm-hmm.
And about a fourth of our highway fund budget comes from motor fuel tax.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if there's any way you could assure us that we're going to get our share of motor fuel tax when the budget crisis gets handled.
I see no reason why you wouldn't, and I'm sorry that this has taken so long. Once we get a budget, we can start to have those resources put back to where they're supposed to go, and I'm sorry it's taken so long. Yes? Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you said that the votes weren't on budget, but we have a lot of preventative measures that are being cut. That is a budget matter. They're not external to budget. Such as, I think, to trim 1.5 billion from agencies that oversee health, mental health services. These are preventative programs that keep people out of jail. If you want to put a lot of money in to get more people, put wardens for jails, more security for jails, we'll have fewer people in jail if we have preventative services. If we have mental health losses, we're not going to prevent those people from going on the street and costing us more. I think we have an obligation to our citizens to protect them. You want people to have more jobs here, and yet you support outsourcing. You have an outsourcing. Why do we outsource so many instead of having minimum wage here? You want to support education. If you lower education by a third, the teachers aren't going to come here. The students are going to want to go elsewhere if they don't have public transportation. If they don't have
Well, you've raised about 12 issues. Let me try to focus on a couple things. First of all, right now, without a budget, a lot of things are happening that I hate, that I'm opposed to. We just don't have a budget. We don't have the money for it. Once we have a budget, we'll have it. I'm a big advocate for mental health. We do mental health horribly in Illinois, and I'm an advocate for better mental health services, and we're going to get better mental health services. I agree with your point. And here's a critical thing. I've led, right from my first month in office, led criminal justice reform in Illinois because a lot of what goes on as crime is really a mental health issue. And I've set a target of reducing our prison population by 25% over the next 10 years to actually serve people who have mental illness, who are now criminals, but who could be rehabilitated and be productive citizens. I'm very committed to that. What we can't do is confuse a short-term budget crisis caused by no balanced budget with our long-term vision for the state. We've been very clear what our long-term vision is, and a lot of the things that you care about and that you listed, I agree with you on, and we're going to deliver. It's hard to deliver them when we have a $5 billion budget hole, no structural reform to encourage businesses to come here, and businesses have been leaving, and this is not a recent event. I told you, we're down in jobs in 16 years. This is not a recent phenomenon. We're down total jobs over the last 16 years. I have to change that, or we're not going to fix any of the things that you and I want to fix on these other issues. Yes, sir.
We're the highest minimum wage state, right in the center of all our competitors. So we can't be raising our minimum wage because it's not just the minimum wage, it's also all the other wages. And the other thing that we've got is a real problem is our property tax in Illinois is extremely high.
Our property taxes is high.
And a good example, just so that people really know what's going on, from the Quad Cities, in a period of time, there was 4 permits for houses built on the Rock Island side, the Illinois side. In the same period, on the Iowa side, there was 88 permits.
Yep.
It tells you something. The people in that area, they may work on the Illinois side, but they're building all their new homes over on the Iowa side because of our property tax. So we got those 2 problems.
We do. You summarized it very well.
So
when I first went to visit with the people at John Deere, Deere is a great employer. They employ a lot of people in Illinois, but also around the Midwest, around the world. John Deere executives told me a lot of their employees were moving out of Illinois across the river because of property taxes or other issues. They told me, and the schools. Let's be clear. I don't know if you know this. We are dead last. In Illinois, we are number 50 out of 50 for state support for education. That is wrong, ladies and gentlemen. That is fundamentally wrong. We've got to fix that. To fix it, we've got to grow, but we've got to reprioritize. I want to get the money out of the bureaucracy and put it into our schools. Put it with the teachers in the classroom and our students. Critical priority. To fix our property tax problem, we need to do 2 things, and I've been very clear about it. We need to do more state support for schools because we overly rely on our local property taxes to pay for our schools, and that's not fair to a lot of lower-income school districts because then the lower-income families get the lower wealth and support of the schools. That's wrong. That's not the American way because equal opportunity is what America's about. So I want to increase state support for education significantly, even more than what the legislature has put in their latest phony, unbalanced budget. And let's be clear, the legislature has cut education funding in Illinois for years and years and years. And every time they raise taxes, or they want to raise taxes, they say, well, it's for our schools. And then it doesn't go to our schools. And you know, we put the lottery into Illinois to fund our schools. It didn't go to the schools. They always divert the money away from our teachers, and that's what I'm fighting. I'm fighting for our teachers in the classroom. We're going to get more money for schools. Now, one of the things we've got to fix while we fund schools more is the bureaucracy, the administrative overhead. That is a problem. That's a problem in K-12. That's a problem in our university system. We need the money, the work rules, the layers of administration, the bureaucracy. We need to shrink that in education, get the money in the classroom with the teachers. That's where the money needs to go, and that's what we're going to do. We support our schools more and our teachers more, and we give local control for you and your communities. Your McLean County shouldn't be told by Springfield what you bargain or bid or what you contract with. It's your county government. You should decide. It belongs to you. Springfield shouldn't be dictating terms to you. If we get local control on costs in your local governments and we increase support for education, we will get a handle on our property tax problem very fast. Very fast. One more question? Any other question? Yes? Yes, great question. So we have a huge problem of unfunded mandates. We have more regulations and restrictions and requirements that cost money and that Springfield doesn't pay for. Big problem. And so my Lieutenant Governor, Evelyn Sanguinetti, is leading a task force to study all the unfunded mandates, and there are hundreds and hundreds, and figure out which ones are the most expensive, most punishing for our local communities, and we're going to sponsor a bill and try to reverse them. And they're looking at unfunded mandates, but also excessive layers of government. I don't know if you know this. Here's another way we lead the nation in a bad way. We have more units of government than any state in America. Did you guys know that? We have 7,000 units of government. The number 2 state has 2,000 fewer units of government than us. And the reason those things mostly exist, because they have taxing authority. They can come up with a little tax here and a little fee there and a little charge there, and then they get pensions, and then they get patronage, and then they get cronyism, and then they got their own board, and they're doing favors. It's a broken system. We have too much layer of bureaucracy. We need to shrink that down, so that's what we're doing. We're getting rid of the unfunded mandates and the excess units of government, and we get the money in the classroom with the students and with our most vulnerable residents. We should be supporting our veterans, those with developmental disabilities. The folks who are vulnerable deserve our support, but we got to get the money out of the bureaucracy and where it belongs, and that's what we're going to get done. So listen, hang in there. I'm sorry we've got no budget. I know it's frustrating. I'm sure you're hearing from your neighbors, if not just your own family members, that we got to get a budget. People are being hurt by this. It's outrageous, but please stay strong and talk to your legislators. And wouldn't hurt to send an email or put a phone call into the legislative leaders down in Springfield. Let's get a budget that's balanced, and let's get structural reform to drive value for taxpayers, and it will grow our economies to get more employers here. We'll get this done, and when we do that, we will thrive, and McLean County is going to boom. McLean County already has a lot going for it with this location and with this workforce. And I'm working my tail off to try to get a buyer for the Mitsubishi plant, because that's a heck of an asset. We're working hard, and we've got people interested, but they look at our regulations and our taxes, and they kind of go, I don't know. I mean, when Tennessee and Texas and Indiana have more favorable business climates, it's tough, but we're working hard because that's a heck of a plant, and we want everybody who's been working there to keep a good career there, if at all possible. We're working our tails off to do it, but so far, it's been tough. It's been tough. Hang in there, stay strong. We'll restore the pride and the prosperity in our great home today in Illinois. Thank you very much, everybody.